Hello and welcome to this live coaching session on limiting beliefs. I'm going first of all to talk about facts and our interpretation of them, because we believe that we discern facts, and of course we do, but once we see those facts we go on to interpret them because we are meaning makers. We make things mean something. That's how we construct meaning in life, isn't it? So we can be observing a fact, and which is a fact, and then draw a conclusion of that. And this often happens really subconsciously, so we don't even know what thought we're forming at the moment when we're observing the facts. So this is what I'm going to go into. I'm going to let you know how you can discover your limiting beliefs, and how you can actually go about questioning them so that if you want to, you can change them. So let me know if this sounds good to you. If you're here live, why don't you go ahead and say hello? I'd love to know who's here. So welcome. If ever you've got any questions here live or later, you can just post in the comments below and I'd be thrilled to answer them. Now, I'm very much into mind management, which means that I believe we can actually choose our thoughts and emotions. Now, this does take a little bit of practice, but it is possible. And the good thing about that is once we allow the idea that we are meaning makers and that we can actually choose our thoughts and feelings, well, that empowers us, doesn't it? Because if we believe that all this is just imposed on us, then we're in that victim space where it's really difficult to do something about anything, right? So what I would like for you to do today, if you listen to this, is just to consider whether it could be possible that I'm right, okay? And if you can't manage straight away to do anything about it, don't worry, you might be able to later, right? This is an ongoing process. And I'm sure you're doing the best you can, and I'm here to support you in that. So let's just dive in and talk a little bit about facts. I just said that we interpret facts. So if I give a really absurd example of this to illustrate what it is I mean, we know that the Earth evolves around the Sun. I hope you're not going to argue with me here. This is a fact that we can observe, right? So the Earth is circling the Sun, which means that it takes 24 hours for the Earth to go around the Sun, which means that we've got 24 hours in the day. So far we're all good, aren't we? But then you could make that mean that you haven't got enough time. Right? I'm sure you've heard people say something like, there's never enough time in the day. But then there are 24 hours, right? So there's the fact and then there's the interpretation. Now I came up with an even more absurd example, which is it's illegal to sell drugs. Right? In most countries, I don't know where you're watching from, but in most countries there are drugs that are illegal to sell. So you could make that mean that I can never become rich. Because, I mean, you can see the absurdity of this. If it means that somewhere you believe that there's only one way of becoming rich, and that is in selling drugs, which is of course not the case. So I've chosen these absurd examples for you to recognize that there are facts, and then there are our interpretations of those facts. So I can see lots of you coming on here. I hope you can all hear me. We're all good? Right. So with my absurd examples, it's very obvious, isn't it? It's the fact is obvious and the interpretation is obvious, but we being human beings, we're a little bit more subtle than that, aren't we? And we do form these very subtle limiting beliefs. Now, beliefs are the thoughts we think on a continuous basis. Those are the thoughts we come back to all the time. And I know that many of you are thinking, I'm not making enough money, right? That could be what you perceive to be reality, but it is really an interpretation. Also, you could be thinking, I'm really fat, which is, again, perhaps not reality, but your interpretation, right? So listen to some of these interpretations. You could be thinking, for instance, no matter how hard I work, there's never enough, which is not a fact, but an interpretation. Then we've got, I just don't fit in with these people. There must be something wrong with me, right? Which is total interpretation again. Then we could think of, if only I could exercise more, I would be slim. These are all interpretations, yet we can so easily get into the place where we believe that they are facts, that they are reality, right? Welcome, Susan. Glad you joined. So, we don't always recognize what is actually fact and what is actually fiction, or what I like to call interpretation. So you could be thinking, well, I don't really have any limiting beliefs. Well, you might not, in which case your life would be wonderful from beginning to end, because everything would be as you would want it to be. And if it's not, well, then you've got a limiting belief hiding there somewhere. So if you want to really discover what that limiting belief is, just think about any situation in your life that you're not totally thrilled with. All right, Susan, great. I'm glad you're working on it. So let's say that you think your marriage is not going the way you want it to. You're a little bit sad about how that is. Or it could be your body image. You don't enjoy the way you look. It could be your money situation. It could be your housing situation. It could be your general relationships. It could be at work. Just think of a place in your life where you're not really totally satisfied. And let's uncover the limiting thought that is behind that. So please try and be a little bit precise here. If you're not happy at work, what is the result? It could be, I am unhappy at work, right? It could be, my boss is horrible to me, right? It could be, I am meant for something better. Try and write it down. What is it exactly? Think about it. Could be in your relationships. It could be, my mother never listens to me, right? And you can see how all these examples are already an interpretation, really, right? So let's try and be as factual as possible. And it could be, I don't enjoy my job. So let's go with that. I don't enjoy my job. How does it make you feel to think that? How does it make you feel? Welcome, Tina. Welcome. How does it make you feel? Does it make you feel angry? Frustrated? Try and name the emotion that this outcome in your life, this result, this situation in your life is making you feel. Is it making you feel despondent? Hopeless? What is it? Try and pinpoint exactly what it could be. Once you've got the feeling, ask yourself, What am I thinking when I'm feeling that? What am I thinking when I'm feeling angry? What is the thought that is going through my head? And there could be several. So please write some of these down. What is it? Am I thinking, my boss is so stupid? I'm so stupid? I'm not respected? I'm not valued? What is that thought? If you want to go a little bit deeper, don't just write down one. Try and journal a little bit around it so that you get into all the juicy parts and you don't stay on the surface. But let's go with the thought, I am not valued in my job. That is the thought you're thinking that is making you feel angry, which is making you feel like you don't enjoy your job. Right? So it's got several layers to it, and we're sort of going back. So we've identified the thought, I'm not valued. Right? And when I say it like that, you can see that this is not a fact, right? It's a limiting belief. So once you recognize what is fact and what is a limiting belief, what is fiction, what is interpretation, then you can start getting to work on it, right? So in this example, I'm not valued. I don't like my job. Now let's take that apart. I'm not valued. Is that true? Ask yourself, is that true? And then go through instances where you are not valued. What are the facts around that? And then write some of them down. It could be that your boss never praises you for your work. So write down, I never get any praise for all the hard work I put in. And let's work with that instance here. So you don't get any praise. Is that a fact? Yes, it could be. Maybe your boss never praises you, but what are you making it mean? Are you making it mean that your boss doesn't see your value? Or are you making it mean that your boss has got very bad communication skills? Right? Because what happens is that we project onto other people, right? We project our limiting beliefs onto other people. So we start believing my boss doesn't value me because he forgets to give me praise. Whereas we could just leave that bit with our boss, couldn't we, and not include ourselves. So if your boss doesn't give you any praise, well, maybe that has got everything to do with him and nothing to do with you. Do you see? So what happens if you've got this idea that you are not valued? Maybe you could be going into thinking, I have no value on the job market, right? I have no value on the job market. And now it becomes really obvious, I hope, that this is a totally limiting belief, that if you want to change the situation, you must change that belief. Imagine you don't want to change that belief, or you're not aware that you've got the belief that I have got no value on the job market. Well, then you're very unlikely to succeed in doing anything about it, aren't you? Whereas if you say, I'm going to question that limiting belief, now that puts you in a place of power. Hello, Carrie. Nice to see you here. So, if you've got the limiting belief, if you've discovered this limiting belief that you believe somewhere inside of you that you've got no value on the job market, now you must go about changing that. And I'm again back to this fact and reality. Is it a fact that you've got no value on the job market? How can that be true? How can that be true? And if you ask yourself, about your limiting belief, how can that be true? You start journaling about that, and you could be listing all the ways in which you add fantastic value to what you do at work, right? And if you think, well, actually, I could be adding more value, well, then that would spur you on to take some action in real life and perhaps add extra value to what you do at your work. It could also spur you on to think, wow, I've got all these values, all this added value that I bring to my company, to my boss. I want to take those elsewhere, right? Once that now I'm aware of them, well, I can make other people aware of them, because that is another thing to limiting beliefs. It is that if we believe something, we teach other people that this is true. By our behavior, everything we do, everything we say will go to prove this limiting belief, because we can't actually believe one thing and say another one without having very, very difficult consequences in our mental health. So if you're in a place where you feel I've got no value on the job market, everything you do, everything you say will reflect that. And other people will pick up on that, because how are they going to understand that this is not true when everything you do, everything you say confirms that it is true? So you get into this vicious circle where you are teaching other people your truth, which is, I've got no value. And then they reflect that back to you. You have got no value, right? So do you see how a limiting belief can really be very, very subtle and to be reinforcing itself all the time, because we project that onto other people who then project that back onto us. So if you've got any question, all you lovely people who are here, feel free to type it in. Otherwise, I'll just go with another example, because lots of you have been in touch with me over their relationships, and this is such an important part of our lives. And it's also such an important, or such a huge place where we can get into some really, really damaging limiting beliefs about ourselves and about the people we share our lives with, and perhaps even our partners. So let's go with that. Let's have a look at a situation in somebody's life where they're feeling my partner doesn't love me. Right? So that could be a limiting belief. Is it a fact? Is it reality? Does this person really not love you, or is it just your interpretation? So let's go back again. If you remember, this is what we're questioning. So how does that make you feel? First of all, how do you feel when you think the thought that my partner doesn't love me? I would feel desperate, sad, anxious, desperate. I mean, if you can think of any other sort of dramatic emotion, despondent, unhappy, frustrated, maybe even angry, jealous, anything, just go with that. That is the feeling. And then go a little bit deeper. You've had this thought that has provoked this feeling. Now, what else are you thinking when you're feeling that? So go into all these words. Jealous. What are you thinking when you're feeling jealous? You could be thinking, my partner is busy engaging with other women. Right? That would make you feel jealous. It could be, my partner is not spending as much time with me as he spends with and somebody else, right? So go into these thoughts. If you're feeling angry about it, well, what is the thought you're thinking when you're feeling angry? You could be thinking, he should be showing more love and concern and care for me. Or you could be thinking something directed towards yourself. Like, why did I ever get involved with that person? right? So write down a few thoughts around that and then get to work on one of them, right? So if you've got a few of them, you've really got a larger perspective on things, right? Once we've got the larger perspective, we can sort of limit it down. So let's go with what shall we take? He's not spending enough time with me, right? Is that a fact? Well, it's really an interpretation, isn't it? Because as soon as we say enough, there's some sort of interpretation there, isn't there? What is enough, right? So he's not spending enough time with me. I'm making that mean that he doesn't love me. Is that true? Right? Always remember to ask yourself, is that true? Can I be absolutely certain that that is true? And you very rarely can, because somebody not spending time with you does not mean that they don't love you. I mean, you can think of many instances where this is untrue. So let's take this apart and have a look at him not spending time with you. Why is that? Where is he spending his time? Maybe he's working too much. Maybe he's fixing the house. Maybe he's spending time with his friends. Maybe he's helping his elderly parents. I mean, there could be many things he could be spending time on. So this is really what you want to be addressing. Because if you don't, you could be thinking, my partner doesn't love me. I can see that because he's not spending enough time with me. That must mean that I am unlovable because he doesn't want to spend time with me. Can you see how you can go around in circles with all that? And you have to really attack it head on at some point. So him not spending enough time with you, what are you making that mean? That he doesn't want to because he doesn't love you, because you are unlovable? That is not a fact, right? So let's take that apart. Why is he not spending time with you? Is it something to do with you? Is it something to do with him, right? So try and see where it is. If you feel I'm unlovable, how are you expressing that in your life? Are you expressing that anywhere? Because remember, we teach people what to think about us. We teach people how to treat us. So do you feel actually that you are lovable? Do you love you? Are you spending time with you? Do you see? So this is a place where you could be starting. You could think, okay, my partner isn't spending time with me. I will spend time with me. And once you start spending time with you, chances are that he will start spending time with you because you have opened up to that, to people spending time with you, starting with yourself, because we can't really control other people. I mean, we would love to, wouldn't we? I mean, we think we could just be very happy and fix everything for everybody if everybody would just do what we ask them to do, right? But we've got very little power over other people. So it's always better to look at ourselves. So if you feel in this instance, if you're making it mean the fact that your partner doesn't spend enough time with you, if you're making it mean that you are unlovable because nobody wants to spend time with you, the only thing to do is really spend time with yourself and tell your partner, I would really love for you to spend much more time with me. That would make me feel really loved, right? So you can do something about your limiting beliefs once you become aware of them and once you assume responsibility for them, right? So you don't have to go into the past to find out where did that limiting belief really originate from. I mean, it could be interesting, but often once we've gotten rid of it, we can see where it came from. So you can just go in there and change it, right? And you have got the power to do so. I'm here to help you if you want to, right? But you can really just apply this method on yourself. So anywhere in your life where you're not totally happy with the situation, where you're not totally satisfied, please think of this as a result. So think, I'm not happy at work, or my husband is not spending enough time with me. And then go back through first your feelings. How's that making you feel? What are you thinking when you're feeling that feeling, right? And then, can that be true? Can you be absolutely certain that that is true, right? And what are you making it mean? So that is how you can discover really your limiting beliefs, and then to do something about them. We're moving in now to the remedy. If you don't want to stay with an unempowering thought, or a disempowering, thought, I have got no value on the job market, well, then you really have to start to persuade yourself to think differently. And this is where many people go a little bit wrong, because they just want to go from 0 to 1,000, right? So they want to go from the limiting belief that I've got no value on the job market to I am the absolute best value that anybody has ever seen on the job market, right? So these two extremes don't connect, and your brain can't go from one to the other in the speed of lightning, really. So you have to work incrementally on this, and it doesn't have to take years, it doesn't have to take weeks, it doesn't have to take days, but you do have to sit down and write it out. So start with the limiting belief, I've got no value on the job market, and then take it a little bit apart. What if I had some value on the job market? What would that be? And then you can write down what your values are. Perhaps I'm very conscientious. I get things done on time, or I always show up on time. I care for my co-workers. Make a whole long list of all the value that people get from you on the job market, right? They could be soft skills, or they could be hard skills, whatever it is that you want to go with. And then work on a new belief. You can start saying to yourself, I'm good value on the job market because I provide, and then you list everything that you provide. You see what I mean? So once you've got a whole list of everything you provide to sort of back you up in a new belief, then now you really just have to believe this or think this thought more often than the other thought. So it's not about thinking all the time that you are the best value ever happened on the job market. It's about thinking that thought more often than the limiting belief. So more often means 51% of the time, and less often means 49% of the time. So you can still be thinking your limiting belief 49% of the time, only you are thinking your empowering belief 51% of the time. Do you see what I mean? So it's not either black or white. It's not these extremes. There's a lot of middle ground. So you could start practicing this new empowering belief, right? You can start practicing saying, I'm such good value to my employer because every morning I show up on time. You could say, I'm such excellent value because when I go to work, I bring my good cheer and my care for my co-workers, right? You can start thinking those thoughts and then diving in to those feelings. What are you feeling when you're thinking, I'm such good value to my boss because I always get everything done on time? How do you feel? Aren't you feeling proud? Aren't you feeling happy? Isn't that what you want to be feeling? Do you see? So managing your mind like that, you can actually shift your beliefs. But be careful, don't go from one extreme to another, right? So I hope that this has been useful for you. I'd love to know some of your limiting beliefs. So feel free to post on that. Oh, I can see lots of you joined. Okay, so good afternoon, Jerry. Good afternoon. Or what is it? Yeah, it must be in the afternoon, just gone for you, Monica. Nice to see you here. So please, I mean, it's a delicious opportunity for us to question our limiting beliefs and to grow from there, isn't it? Because once we get rid of the limiting beliefs, it does open so many doors, doesn't it? It does allow us to really take charge of so many things. And the good thing is that to start off with, we don't have to take any action in the outside world, right? We are just managing our minds. We're just changing from the inside. Once we've changed on the inside, we will have different results on the outside. So we don't have to go into any scary sort of frightening outward doing or action steps, right? We can just start very, very slowly on the inside, and then the results will show up, right? The transformation will happen in real life as you go along. And a sure sign that you have shifted a limiting belief is that you get a different result in your life. You've got a different outcome, right? So in my examples would be that your husband would be spending enough time with you, right? You can see that that belief has changed once that reality has changed. Or once you do find a new job where you feel valued, well, then you can see, okay, I got rid of that limiting belief, right? Well, already when you start feeling valued, well, that means, well, okay, I got rid of that limiting belief. And then you can, of course, always upscale it, right? That is what I love doing. I love always up-leveling all areas of my life. So this is a limiting belief I often get confronted with because I love luxury. I mean, nothing can ever be too good for me. So this is something that is very challenging for many people. And they feel, wow, all this luxury, it's a bit too much, really, right? As if there could ever be too much of a good thing. But it's really about them feeling that too much of a good thing, no, this is too much, right? This is too much for me. I'm not worth it, right? So all this sort of scarcity mindset is really about not feeling worthy, not feeling deserving, which is, of course, another big, big thing we should be shifting, right? So let me know if this was useful. Just say it was useful in the comment, which will encourage me to come up with other themes for our life coaching sessions. I would love to talk about pleasure in these sessions. I don't know whether that is something that would be of interest to you, but please post about in the comments below other subjects that you would find useful for us to go into here. I can talk about a lot of things and I enjoy talking about a lot of things, and we can actually get to work on this together. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. To talking to you again soon. Bye for now.